More Cape Verdeans live abroad than on their 10 Atlantic islands. The clue to how one nation stayed bound starts with bare feet. Living in Cape Verde, a nation with more people abroad than at home. Between islands and overseas neighborhoods, Cape Verde is carried by the voice as much as by ships and aircraft. Creole keeps names close. Cachupa turns corn, beans, and cassava into a shared table. Grog, Morna, and Caldera carry work, longing, and return without making them soft. I keep coming back to one pressure. How can a small Atlantic country stay one people when so much life happens elsewhere? In this video, we follow the sounds, food, symbols, and memory that keep a homeland alive across water. Country can be smaller than many cities and still be too scattered to hold in one hand. Cape Verde sits about 600 kilometers off West Africa. 10 main islands, 9 inhabited, just over 4,000 square kilometers split by Atlantic water. Before Portuguese settlement in the 15th century, these islands were uninhabited. Their name came from the Cape Verde Peninsula near present-day Senegal, but the country that grew here faced the ocean more than the mainland. Position made them useful before it made them secure. They became a hard Atlantic stop, tied first to forced commerce, later to coal and refueling for ships crossing a wide sea. Even the geography splits by wind. Barlavento faces the harder air, with names like Santo Antao and São Vicente. Sotavento sits in the lee, where Santiago, Fogo, Maio, and Brava carry older political, agricultural, and volcanic memory. Reread that map as a homeland divided into different voices. Wind, drought, ports, and departure pressed into the way Cape Verdeans named home. That pressure explains why island names matter in the diaspora. When more Cape Verdeans live away than at home, belonging survives by calling each island by name. A national dish can be built from scarcity, not abundance. Cachupa proves it. Maize or hominy, beans, cassava, sweet potato, cabbage, and whatever fish, meat, or sausage a household can afford. Corn sits at the center because these islands learn to cook with limits. The stew does not hide shortage. It stretches it into food strong enough for a family table. Cachupa rica carries more fish or meat. Cachupa pobre holds the older lesson. Simpler ingredients, longer patience, more mouths fed from the same pot. Leftovers can return the next morning as Cachupa refogada, fried and brought back to work. This is not only ceremony, it is daily rhythm. The deeper idea is simple. A people can store a house inside a stew. For migrants, the same smell can pull an absent island into an overseas kitchen. Grog takes the memory into a glass. The national liquor is distilled from sugarcane juice, especially in Santo Antao's wetter valleys. It is often over 40%, served neat as a welcome or celebration. Its force is cane, heat, and labor made drinkable. Hospitality gives the table its hard rule. Eating in public without offering food nearby is rude. Hunger turned courtesy into discipline, and sharing kept the homeland intact. Before the Galapagos entered Darwin's story, a dry Atlantic island began training his eyes. The Beagle left England in December 1831, missed Tenerife under quarantine, and reached Praia on Santiago in January 1832. Cape Verde was the voyage's first true landing, not a later footnote. Darwin spent about 3 weeks studying volcanic rock, dunes, coastal forms, heat, plants, and unfamiliar ground. One detail matters more than the famous names that came later. Near Praia, he noticed a pale band of marine limestone caught between darker lava layers. That band showed land could rise, shift, and keep a record across deep time. Rock stopped being background. It became evidence under pressure. That small band of stone is the Cape Verde detail that matters. History did not arrive here as a loud conclusion, but as a sharper way of looking. The fruits mattered too. Bananas, oranges, and tamarinds were not ordinary British fare then. Along with the dry heat, they pushed Darwin into a world that did not obey his home expectations. The islands gave him no final theory. They gave him discipline, compare, measure, question the surface, and let small evidence change the larger map. Praia entered world history as a first shore, where stone, climate, and fruit quietly redirected an observer before his later ideas carried across the world. Scattered country needs a flag that can push against distance without raising its voice. Cape Verde's flag, adopted in 1992, sets 10 yellow stars in a circle for the 10 main islands, on blue for ocean and sky. The design is blunt and practical. Water divides the islands, so the flag does what geography cannot. It holds them in one ring. White stripes speak of peace. The red stripe carries effort and cost. The colors turn separation into a civic mark, not a tourist emblem. That matters because Cape Verde is larger than its land. Its people are spread across ports, islands, and overseas homes, while belonging still needs a visible center. The political record gives that center weight. Since the first multi-party elections in 1991, Cape Verde has built one of Africa's strongest democratic records. Power has changed hands through elections, and public institutions have stayed comparatively steady. For a small country with few natural resources, that steadiness is not decoration, it is leverage. It helps draw tourism, investment, and outside confidence. It also matters to immigrants who send money, visit, or keep open the possibility of return. The 10 stars look like a circle holding the islands against drift. Stable democracy gives that circle practical force. Trust that home still answers across the water. Cape Verde's independence did not arrive as one clean break. It came through paperwork, revolution, and a split alliance across the sea. Portugal reclassified the islands as an overseas province in 1951, but the new label did not loosen colonial power. For centuries, Lisbon held the archipelago even after abolition, and as migration pulled families into Atlantic labor routes. In the 1960s, citizenship and representation widened on paper, but papers could not answer the demand for self-government. The liberation struggle tied Cape Verde to Guinea-Bissau through the Paix. Amilcar Cabral's vision treated the two territories as connected struggles. Then Portugal's Carnation Revolution in 1974 changed the empire. The dictatorship fell, colonial rule became unsustainable, and the islands moved toward independence. On July 5, 1975, Cape Verde became independent with Aristides Pereira as its first president. Freedom here was quiet on the surface, but heavy underneath. The hoped-for union with Guinea-Bissau ended after the 1980 coup that removed Luis Cabral from power. Cape Verde's branch became the Paix, and one political house broke apart. That is the hard question inside independence. After colonial rule, who still counts as kin? Cape Verde answered with a state of its own, carrying shared memory without surrendering its name. The first permanent European foothold in the tropics now stands as Cape Verde's hardest lesson, not its trophy. Founded on Santiago in 1462 as Ribeira Grande, Cidade Velha is the country's only UNESCO World Heritage Site. Its sheltered valley and harbor made it valuable to Portuguese expansion. From here, West Africa, Europe, and the Americas were pulled into one Atlantic chain. The stone record is blunt. The Pelourinho, the cathedral ruins, old streets, and the royal fortress of São Felipe. They mark colonial power through control, faith, commerce, and defense. Vasco da Gama stopped in this harbor on his way to India. Christopher Columbus passed through before his third voyage to the Americas. But famous names are the shallow layer. The deeper story is the people forced through the port, made to lose land, family, and even their own name. Cidade Velha makes me think national memory can begin as a hard mark. The stones do not prove glory. They preserve pressure Cape Verde had to turn into inheritance. That is why this place matters to a country built across distance. Before Morna carried saudade, before Creole tied farhouses to island names, there was this gate. Ribeira Grande is where an old town becomes a beginning, absence entering Cape Verdean history, then becoming part of belonging. Pedra de Lume looks silent now, but it once worked like an export machine. At Pedra de Lume, seawater entered low volcanic basins. The sun stripped it down to salt, and a tramway was built in 1919 to move the cargo toward the coast. The brine is often compared with the Dead Sea because it can hold a body up with little effort, but that floating is the final layer, not the first one. Before leisure took over the story, this crater was a workplace. Pans, heat, mineral water, and heavy loads pulled across dry ground. The opening through the crater wall was part of that hard logic, not just an entrance. It turned a sealed volcanic bowl into a route for labor and export. The small tramway did not make the work light. It made the haul more controlled. Rails replaced some of the carrying and tied the floor of the crater to the Atlantic market. Sal later absorbed another ambition. In the 1930s, aviation interests developed the island as a South Atlantic refueling stop, and Portugal took over the airport after the war. That is what stays with me. Salt below, aircraft above, and ambition crossing the same dry island. The tram no longer runs, but its line still carries work that has not evaporated. The strongest engine on Sal is not a hotel, a road, or an airport. It is wind. Along 8 kilometers of Atlantic coast, the same force that fills postcards also drives one of Cape Verde's busiest gateways. Sal is often the first island outsiders meet because its international airport, resorts, and Santa Maria beaches pull the country into the tourism economy. White sand and clear water sell an easy image, but the island's name points to older labor when salt at Pedra de Lume and Santa Maria mattered more than rooms and restaurants. The land is flat, dry, and exposed, so the Atlantic trade winds arrive with little resistance. In stronger winter months, that pressure turns the shoreline into a training ground for kitesurfing and windsurfing. Ponta Preta draws experienced wave riders. Kite Beach and easier shores make room for beginners. Sport here is built from exposure, not shelter. Tourism brings jobs, roads, hotels, boat trips, diving, and restaurants, but it also presses on water, housing, and imported food. The contradiction is sharp. Wind sells beautiful footage, yet it also remembers departure. On Sal, the Atlantic edge becomes a working border between staying, leaving, and carrying Cape Verde back across the sea. Cape Verde's strongest hiking island was not built first for hikers. Santo Antao, the country's second largest island, is usually reached by ferry from Mindelo to Porto Novo. Yet many routes began as working paths between fields, homes, and ports. That changes every climb. The trail is not decoration. It is old labor cut into stone. Dry coastal slopes rise into green valleys, cloud-fed ridges, terraced farms, and ravines that close around the body. The island refuses the easy image of Cape Verde as only beaches and sun. Around the Cova crater, Paul Valley, Ribeira Grande, Zoxo, and the route from Ponta do Sol toward Cruzinha and Fontanhas. Distance is measured by breath. Where water gathers, sugarcane, bananas, yams, coffee, fruit trees, and small gardens take hold. Where the ridge opens, the same island turns exposed and dry. What grips me is that home here does not ask to be gentle. It can be a slope that makes the chest work before memory clears. For Cape Verdeans living across seas and ports, these paths give absence a shape. A village, a field, a ferry. The route keeps the island practical, not imaginary. Santo Antao makes belonging footwork, stone steps, hard breath, and valley names that remain precise after people leave. Secret meeting in 1956 carried the weight of two countries. The PAEGC, founded by Amilcar Cabral with Cape Verdean and Guinean organizers, turned a small underground network into the political engine of independence in Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde. Cabral was more than a party name. He was an agronomist, a thinker, and an organizer who tied land, schools, culture, and dignity to liberation. His argument was blunt. Colonial rule had pressed people to doubt their own history. Resistance had to rebuild confidence like a road or a field. Most of the hardest campaign unfolded in Guinea-Bissau, but Cape Verde stayed inside the design. The island supplied leaders and the imagined shape of a future state. That is why his name still appears in museums, streets, schools, and songs, not as a frozen portrait, but as a measure of dignity. In 1973 in Conakry, Cabral was cut off before independence arrived. The calendar moved forward without the man who had pushed it open. Luis Cabral, his half-brother, later became Guinea-Bissau's first president, and the family story tightened the national one. Politics entered the house. Amilcar Cabral's name survives as something spoken, argued over, and measured against daily dignity. A dry Atlantic archipelago should not sound this crowded with life. More than 100 bird species have been recorded across Cape Verde, from the Cape Verde swift and Iago sparrow to the rare Rasso lark. That number matters because these islands give wildlife little room. Water is limited, habitats are thin, and small changes hit hard. Grazing, construction, invasive species, and coastal lighting are not background pressures. On small islands, they can bend the fate of a beach, a wetland, or a nesting cliff. The strongest return route belongs to the loggerhead sea turtle. Boa Vista, Sal, Mayo, and Santiago help make Cape Verde the world's third most important nesting site for this endangered species. Between June and February, adults come ashore and hatchlings later push out of the sand. Patrols, nest monitoring, legal protection, and visitor controls reduce disturbance, vehicle damage, illegal capture, and light confusion. Instinct here seems to carry memory. A turtle crossing open water back to the same islands turns belonging into muscle and direction. On land, the older record belongs to bats. The gray long-eared bat uses caves, cliffs, and volcanic rock shelters, a native line from before human arrival. Here, wildlife means endurance, a cliff, a beach, a route back. For Cape Verde, distance is not empty space. It is the main obstacle the country has to build across. There are no public railway lines, so movement depends on roads, ferries, domestic flights, airports, and ports. On a map, the crossings look short, In daily life, weather, schedules, runway capacity, and ticket prices decide who moves and when. International cooperation enters at that exact pressure point. The European Union, the World Bank, and other partners have helped finance airports, ports, energy, water, fisheries, and food processing work. Said has been high per person because the islands are small, dry, and short on natural resources. It has also been credible because Cape Verde built a reputation for stable governance, the kind that makes outside money less likely to lose force. Mindelo on São Vicente gives this transport question its hard edge. Porto Grande is a deep-water harbor that served Atlantic coal and shipping routes in the 19th century. Large vessels could enter there, and the city gained weight far beyond its island size. Here, airport plans, harbor upgrades, and aid figures as attempts to close gaps that geography keeps reopening. Transport becomes family logistics, work, return, and the route by which a scattered nation stays whole. The highest ground in Cape Verde is also one of its hardest places to leave. Pico do Fogo rises nearly 3,000 meters from Chadas Caldeiras, where communities returned after the 2014 eruption overran homes, roads, vineyards, and guest houses. The caldera carries older pressure. Long ago, about 300 square kilometers of island gave way and slid into the Atlantic. That scale makes Portela and Bangaera feel almost impossible. They were not built beside danger. They were built inside it. What holds my attention is not the crater alone. It is the return after 2014, when families rebuilt near black lava wine plots and ancestral soil. Fogo's ash feeds coffee and local wine. Agriculture here is a bargain with heat, stone, and risk. Brava answers with another kind of attachment. Cape Verde's smallest inhabited island has few easy beaches, sharp cliffs, and the green weight behind its name, the Island of Flowers. Nova Sintra gathers that quieter rhythm into gardens, narrow roads, viewpoints, and maritime isolation. It gives migrants a different picture of return, less spectacle, more room to imagine the way back. Together, Fogo and Brava make attachment visible. One pulls people back through ash and work. The other holds absence in flowers, cliffs, and silence. Cape Verde's most famous voice reached the world stage with bare feet. Cesaria Evora was born in Mindelo on São Vicente in 1941, and the missing shoes became a public bond with the poor of the islands. That gesture matters because her music was never only performance. It kept the hard edge of port life, working rooms and families split by leaving. Morna carried the heavier load. Slow, restrained, shaped by longing and separation, it gave saudade a sound deep enough for people living far from home. Caldera moved differently. It gave the same ache a brighter step, a rhythm that let memory keep walking instead of freezing in loss. The barefoot choice cuts through the mythology. It says music can rise without cutting itself loose from those with the least. Through Saudade and Miss Perfumado, Evora carried Mindelo beyond the harbor and onto major stages. Grammy recognition came later, and UNESCO inscribed Morna as intangible cultural heritage in 2019. But migrants had already made that decision in kitchens, bars, and family rooms. Evora made absence audible, giving Cape Verdeans abroad a country they could still hear. Cape Verde's borders do not contain its people, more live beyond them than within them. Cape Verde lives with that pressure. The diaspora is larger than the resident population, spread through New England, Portugal, the Netherlands, France, Luxembourg, Senegal, Angola, and Brazil. This did not create a weak identity. It forced identity to work harder. Across ports, phone lines, remittances, songs, funerals, festivals, and return visits. The islands were shaped by African roots, Portuguese colonial rule, and centuries of Atlantic movement. Most Cape Verdeans carry mixed African and European ancestry, not as a footnote, but as a daily voice. Like that, Cape Verde does not hide its mixture. Creole, in its island varieties, turns that mixture into speech. Catholic practice, African-influenced customs, family names, music, and food carry the same mark. Migration came from harsh forces: drought, hunger, whaling ships, merchant routes, labor contracts, and education. Leaving was often not a clean break. It was a way to keep families standing. Sport makes the split visible. Cape Verde has competed at the Summer Olympics since 1996, while athletes of Cape Verdean origin have also carried island names into other flags and stadiums. That is why a race, a meal, or a song can feel larger than performance. When the people are divided between islands and overseas homes, belonging has to travel with them. Surrounded by Atlantic water, Cape Verde still wins many meals from reluctant ground. Only about 1/10 of Cape Verde can be farmed, while the islands import roughly 80 to 90% of what they eat. That figure changes how I read a bowl of Cachupa. It is food, but also a record of ships, weather, remittances, and soil. Dry climate, thin ground, steep slopes, and irregular rain press against the farmer before a seed enters the earth. On Santo Antao, water is taken from springs and streams, then pushed through terraces and narrow irrigation channels. Sugarcane, bananas, yams, vegetables, and fruit grow there, because people make each wet valley work harder than its size. On Santiago and Fogo, rain-fed plots and volcanic ground carry maize, beans, coffee, and grapes where the season allows. The 20th century brought hard drought years, and shortage helped push Cape Verdeans across the sea. Goats fit that history. Brought by Portuguese settlers in the 15th century, they adapted to rock, scrub, and dry slopes. Their milk, cheese, and meat still support rural households, though their teeth also strain fragile vegetation. In goats on stone and gardens held up by water, Cape Verde teaches absence to eat like home. Monterey does not separate its mountain from its machinery. Fundadora Park keeps old industrial structures in public use, while Cerro de la Silla rises behind the city skyline. That contrast gives the place its weight. One side carries furnaces, brick, canals, lawns, and museums. The other carries the ridge that marks the city from a distance. The old steel ground has not been erased. It has been reloaded with walkways, museums, canals, lawns, and open space. This is not a soft conversion. Industrial frames once built for heat, weight, and repetition now hold paths, grass, water, and memory. Under the mountain, reuse feels physical. The city does not lower the past into a display case. It makes public life move through it. Evening light can put brick furnaces, glass towers, and the ridge in one hard line. The result is not old versus new, but load transferred. Cerro de la Silla matters because it refuses to be background. It fixes the park inside a larger shape, a working city under stone. Read Fundadora that way, not as nostalgia, but as a civic decision. Keep the industrial structure visible, then give it another duty. Monterrey remembers labor by using it again. Under Cerro de la Silla, the old city does not vanish. It makes room for the next one. A modern city is moving over an older city that still occupies the ground. Around the Templo Mayor and the historic center, stone ruins sit beneath and beside cathedral walls, palace facades, traffic, and street vendors. Mexico City does not let the past stay in a museum. It forces old stone and daily work into the same frame, so the city feels built in layers rather than stages. This is the pressure of Tenochtitlan under the present. The older city is not gone from sight. It keeps appearing where pavement, walls, and public space leave an opening. Traffic supplies one rhythm. Vendors supply another. Beneath that surface, the ancient center holds a slower beat, still claiming room without stopping the modern city above it. What strikes me here is not nostalgia. It is the fact that a city can grow dense and still carry an earlier ground in its body. The old lakebed adds another layer. From above, the contemporary city spreads hard and dense, yet older geography still pushes through the historic center. Each part presses against the next, and none fully wins. Mexico City belongs to the present, but it is never only present. Tenochtitlan still holds a place under the noise. A valley this dry can still store summer in rows. The Okanagan stretches around deep blue lakes, dry hills, orchards, vineyards, and small towns held in long northern light. The contrast gives the place its force. Water lies low and cold-looking. The slopes above it carry vines, fruit trees, roads, and houses. Nothing here feels accidental. Rows of grapes and apples trace the land with discipline, turning hillside into work that can be harvested. This is not wilderness pushing people away. It is land that demands timing and water discipline, planting, pruning, waiting, picking before heat or season turns. The lakes matter because they slow the eye and anchor the heat. Without them, the dry hills would feel harder and more exposed. What stays with me is the patience written into the slopes. A vineyard is not a view, it is a calendar fixed to wires and soil. Small towns sit inside that rhythm. Their scale is modest, but the agricultural pattern around them is large, repeated, and deliberate. At day's edge, the valley tightens into simple facts: water below, dry land above, rows between them, and mountains closing the frame. Okanagan keeps summer as labor, not decoration. Fruit, vine, lake, and hill hold the evidence of people who stayed with the land. Old stone and bright Caribbean water meet with almost no buffer. The ruins stand on limestone cliffs above turquoise surf, with wind moving through grass, palms, and weathered walls. The force of Tulum is not volume, it is pressure between two facts: rock that refuses to hurry, and water that never stops. Sea wind crosses the grass, hits the old walls, and breaks into silence. That is why the place can feel bare and still loaded with speech. The nearby beaches soften the edge, and the mangroves pull the coast back into shade, but the cliff remains the hard fact. A wall beside open sea is never only a wall. It is a line drawn against wind, salt, and time, then left to prove its strength. Think Tulum holds attention because it does not explain itself too quickly. The bright water keeps the ruins from feeling sealed away. Nothing here needs a heavy voice. The old stone, the grass, and the Caribbean color carry the argument. Some places keep memory by staying exposed, even as crowds and coast press in. Sits quiet feels disciplined, hardened by cliff salt and wind. One thin fall of water can make an entire mountain range feel awake. Bassaciaquic drops through rugged Sierra Madre cliffs, a narrow white force set against stone walls and forested canyon. The scale arrives by contrast. Water moves fast. The cliffs stay heavy, dark, and almost refusing to answer. Pine, rock, and mist make the canyon feel less like scenery than a test of distance. The eye follows the fall downward, then gets caught by the size of everything around it. What I keep returning to is that imbalance. The water looks slight, but gravity gives it authority. Through the day, light shifts across the ravines. Each change exposes another ledge, another wall, another depth that was hidden a moment before. This is the Sierra Madre as pressure, not decoration. Forest grips the broken ground. Stone holds the drop. Water finds the one line it can take. Sound completes what the wide view cannot measure. It gives the cliffs a pulse. Bassaciaquic does not need bulk to dominate memory. Its power comes from repetition, falling, striking, rising as mist, then falling again. That is the hard lesson of this canyon. A narrow stream can mark a vast wall because it never argues with the mountain. It keeps moving. Some of Yucatan's clearest water is not under the sky, but under the ground. Across the peninsula, cenotes open through limestone into jungle roots and underground rivers, turning the surface into a thin roof over hidden water. Beach shows its weather at once. A cenote hides its force. The opening may look small, but below it, light drops into water, stone, roots, and darkness. These places matter because limestone does not seal water away. It lets water carve, collect, and connect, so the land keeps part of itself out of sight. Swimmer on the surface sees clear blue. The older story is around the body, stalactites overhead, mirrored cavern ceilings, and underground rivers moving without noise. The unsettling part is the hush below ordinary ground, depth waiting under a normal jungle floor. Sunlight changes the whole chamber. When it falls through the opening, the water stops looking flat. Depth becomes visible and time seems to have a lower level. The Yucatan's cenotes are clear entrances into hidden depth, where fragile water keeps the land's memory below the light, and every surface choice can sink underground. Cold ocean erases a beach faster than the land can hold a mark. On Vancouver Island's wild Pacific edge, Tofino is held between wet cedar forest and long sand, with tide pools below and cold surf driving in from open water. The place does not use height or noise. Its force is quieter, morning fog, dark timber behind the beach, and a horizon that never looks settled. Tofino is not just a pretty edge of Canada. It is a line of pressure, where land stops, weather keeps moving, and every human mark has to answer to the tide. The forest carries another weight. Cedar silhouettes stand softened by mist, proof that life here grows by enduring wet ground, salt air, and long seasons of dim light. At the shore, the tide pools show a harder rule. Small pools remain only until the water returns, then the Pacific takes back the surface. What stays with me is the contradiction. Nothing here feels weak, yet almost everything visible can be wiped clean by the next swell. The quiet has mass. Cold water, soaked wood, wind, and waves pressing against rock. Tofino leaves no footprint on the sand. Its lesson is blunt. The mark disappears, but the cold edge lasts for years. Montreal wears several times at once. From Mount Royal, Montreal folds mountain, river, bridges, dense roofs, church spires, and tight streets into one layered piece of ground. The overlook does not make the city gentle. It exposes pressure, old stone beside murals, port streets beside metro entrances, winter glare beside summer light. What holds my attention is the kind of nostalgia at work here. It is not frozen. Each season lays a new coat over the last. Stone facades and church spires carry weight, but they do not lock the city into the past. Caifs, trains, and painted walls keep pushing daily life through it. For Cape Verdeans thinking about homeland across distance, that is the useful point. Belonging does not stay whole by standing still. It is carried in voices, food, songs, and habits that cross water and come back changed. That is where saudade becomes force, not decoration. Montreal makes that pressure visible without announcing it. The city remembers in more than one language, and the memory keeps working under the roofs. In a film about islands and absence, Montreal gives the colder lesson: a homeland can move if its people keep giving it sound and use. Power looks different when water runs beside it. Ottawa sets Parliament Hill, stone towers, broad lawns, bridges, the Ottawa River, and the Rideau Canal into the same civic frame. The city could have hardened into ceremony. Instead, the riverfront keeps the heavy blocks from becoming sealed-off objects. Ottawa feels solemn, but not cold. The water keeps the stone open and the lawns turn power outward. The Rideau Canal sharpens that balance. In warm months it carries boats. In winter its ice changes the city's pace and sound. That shift matters for this larger story of belonging. Memory needs forms that can change without breaking. A song, a meal, a language, a route back. Parliament Hill speaks in towers and formal stone. The river answers with movement, tying authority to something less fixed and more exposed. Keep returning to that tension, rule and reflection, monument and water. It is why Ottawa feels less like a closed capital than a guarded record. For Cape Verde's scattered people, the lesson is plainer. History holds when language, music, food, and return routes keep moving, carrying home without pretending it is fixed. Guadalajara keeps its age in places that still work. Colonial plazas, cathedral towers, shaded arcades, busy markets, and tree-lined avenues all carry the same pressure. Public life layered by generations. The city's strength is not one monument. It is the way stone, color, shade, and noise are used again and again, not sealed away. In Tlaquepaque, that idea becomes physical. Courtyards hold ceramics, evening lanterns, and mariachi sound, turning craft into a daily rhythm rather than a display. Market does a different kind of work. It pulls the city out of the postcard and back into bargaining, crowding, heat, hands, voices, buying, carrying, calling out. What stays with me is the sense of touch. Guadalajara feels shaped by people who did not need to leave a signature to leave weight. The cathedral towers give height, but the arcades give shelter. The plazas open the city, but the courtyards tighten it back to human scale. That push and pull keeps the old fabric useful. It lets music, clay, color, and shade hold warmth without turning the city soft. Guadalajara's beauty is not fragile decoration. It is memory kept in use, pressed into walls, courtyards, songs, and streets still carrying daily weight. The Pacific here looks built for escape, but its real record is labor, small boats, worn stone, and paint scraped hard by salt. Puerto Vallarta curves around a bright bay with green mountains behind it. Sayulita answers with surfboards, colored streets, and a slower beach rhythm. That contrast matters. One place gathers movement along the waterfront. The other lets the day loosen around sand, boards, and narrow lanes. The coast is not quiet because nothing happens. It is quiet because the noise has been filtered by weather, fishing, and repeated return. Palm shadows and cobblestone streets can look easy on screen, but they also mark a practical coastline. Boats need shelter, feet need grip, and towns learn to face water without pretending to control it. Keep returning to that restraint. The joy has sun on it, but it does not need to shout over the bay. At dusk, the small details carry the heavier work. A hull pulled above the tide, a wall repainted after salt, a street holding the heat of the day. Puerto Vallarta and Sayulita share one coast, but carry different pressures. Together they show Pacific happiness made durable by use, rest, and the marks of people who stopped before moving on. Here, water behaves like stone. On the Oaxacan mountainside, pale mineral terraces hang from the cliff, carrying the shape of waterfalls that no longer move. The force is quiet, but it is force all the same. Water moves, spills, and leaves minerals behind until the cliff face records the work. Here El Agua is often read as a view, but the stronger fact is slower. The landscape has been built by residue, not by sudden impact. Natural pools sit on the cliff edge, holding sky above a dry valley lined with agave and stone. Their calm surface hides a hard exchange between liquid and rock. What stays with me is that nothing here feels wasted. Flow becomes crust, mineral becomes ledge, and passing time takes on weight. The pale terraces do not imitate a waterfall. They argue with one. A waterfall falls and disappears, but this one keeps its outline on the mountain. That makes the place severe, not delicate. The pools offer ease, yet the cliff below them shows pressure, patience, and the discipline of the earth. Early light only makes the lesson sharper. Stone, steam, dry hillside, and a valley held open beneath the edge. Higher El Agua turns motion into evidence. Time does not simply pass here, it hardens, layer by layer, on the cliff face. A field can look mechanical without being anonymous. Across Jalisco, blue agave runs in strict rows over red volcanic soil, and llamadoras move through the sharp leaves. The order is not decoration. It is labor repeated until the land accepts a rhythm. Each plant holds its ground with hard blades and a low, heavy stance. The rows make distance readable, but the work inside them is slower than the geometry suggests. This is what the roadside sign cannot carry: the memory of hands in soil, cut leaves, and measured steps between plants. Morning light turns the leaves silver, but it does not soften them. The field still looks hard, dry, and exact. By sunset, the red earth darkens and the agave shadows stretch across the ground. The pattern feels clean only from far away. Close to the work, repetition is not empty. It is how a landscape is kept, row after row, season after season. The distant hills make the fields seem calm, but the surface holds pressure: heat, timing, edge, muscle, and soil. What remains is a hard kind of memory. In these agave fields, land does not just grow plants, it keeps the marks of the people who shaped it. Guanajuato is squeezed into a valley, yet it keeps making room upward, sideways, and underground. Guanajuato is compressed into steep alleys, stacked houses, balconies, tunnels, and church domes with color climbing, because the ground gives almost no room to spread. From above, the city does not read as a plan, it reads as pressure. Pink, yellow, blue, and terracotta, pushed up the slopes by stone, habit, and time. At street level, the narrow lanes do the opposite. They cut the city down to steps, corners, shadow, and the sudden break of a plaza. This is where Guanajuato holds its weight, not in one monument, but in the way sound gets trapped between walls and returns as music, voices, and footfall. The tunnels add another layer beneath the color. They make the city feel built in cross-section, as if daily life has learned to move through the hillside instead of around it. What stays with me is the stacking of memory here. Each balcony, stair, and church dome seems to belong to a different hour, yet all of them crowd into the same valley. Guanajuato's strongest image is the turn after the alley, a guitar note, a step on stone, and more memory waiting uphill. After tracing Cape Verde, I am left with a plain takeaway. A homeland is not held only by soil. It is held by habits strong enough to cross water. Creole at the table, Cachupa stretched through a hard month, Morna keeping saudade steady instead of letting it scatter. A ring of stars giving separate islands one public shape. None of this is soft heritage display. For a small Atlantic state, culture works like hard infrastructure. It links ports, remittances, return tickets, elections, family names, and the memory of Cabral into one usable frame that matters far beyond these islands. This is the century of movement. Small nations that cannot keep their people emotionally tied across borders will not simply feel emptier. They will have less leverage, less trust, and less weight in the world forming around them. If this thread is worth following, stay with the journey as it tracks belonging through sound, food, ports, and return, where Cape Verde shows how a country can travel without vanishing.